Hey, welcome to Kentucky Sustainable Living. We're here to talk about our upcoming festival, and we've got Brian and Susan from S&B Homestead Radio, and they're going to share. I forgot what they were going to share.
Communication planning.
Yes, communication planning. It's been a long day, y'all.
Shelly, I'm glad you did the intro.
Let me do it again so you can cut it out.
Yeah. All right. Behind the scenes, it's like we're getting ready to start recording, and we're like, how are we going to start this? And I'm like, Shelly, you usually start the podcast. And she's like, well, this is not the podcast. I was like, yeah, go ahead and start it. So we let Shelly start it, and we see
So Shelly jacked it all up. So welcome back to Kentucky Sustainable Living. We're going to talk about the festival.
and the communications plan.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, guys, if y'all don't know, the festival is in Bowling Green, Kentucky, July 18th, 19th, and 20th at the WKU Ag Expo Center. You can get tickets at our website, KentuckySustainableLiving.com. If we can make like $50,000, we can buy KSL.com. So that's what it is. I checked the other day.
It's up to y'all.
Wow.
You all got to make this happen.
Yeah. So it will be a burden, a bit less burden on y'all if y'all can just type KSL.com. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, $50,000. But for now, go to KentuckySustainableLiving.com to get your tickets. And also starting, this month, June, all through the month of June, whoever buys tickets is entered to win the Refuge Medical class, a spot in it. Refuge Medical is doing a 4-hour bleeding prevention class at the festival. You can, if you don't want to take a chance on winning the class, you can go to our website, and at the top of the website, there's a red banner. Click on it. It will take you straight to the Refuge website to where you can sign up for that class. It's $200, which is less than half of what it is regularly if you go to Oklahoma. And honestly, this is the only class that Refuge is teaching on the road this year so far. And TJ told me, Bear told me this is probably the only class he's going to be teaching on the road. So he will be there teaching part of the class. So get your tickets for that, or buy a ticket for the festival and take your chance on seeing if you can win in the month of June. So, but we've got Brian and Susan from S&B Homestead Radio. We're supposed to talk about a communications plan, but we'll probably go down a rabbit hole or something like that.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Always with radio stuff.
If we can do like 15 minutes of communications plan, and then we can do rabbit holes, I think it's a success.
Yeah.
We can do that.
So, Brian, Susan, give everybody kind of, and honestly, a lot of people have watched it. We've had you on here before. I love having y'all on because we'll wind up, talking about the comms plan, and we'll veer off in the left lane somewhere talking about something else. But kind of tell everybody how y'all got into radio, communications, and stuff like that, and some background on that for us.
Sure. Well, about 8 years ago, I've always been interested in ham radio. And then actually about 10 years ago, we bought a radio, started listening, could not find anyone to help us get licensed to teach us about radio. So we finally got somebody to help us. We got licensed, started learning radio. And then a couple of years back, we said, hey, we know enough now to start teaching people that want to learn about radio and not give them all the technical stuff. It's like you ask an old time ham what time it is, and he tells you how to build the watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people these days don't want to go down that. They just want to know, how do I operate the radio? What do I need to operate on the radio? And who can I talk to?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what we do. We break it down to simple. And, one of the first things we ask is, what do you need? What are your goals for communications? And it's been fun. We've been to your place 3-4 times now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And have worked with some great people up there doing some training classes. Fantastic. The festival itself is great. We talk constantly from the time the doors open till the time the doors close. We've got people coming in and out of our booth talking to us about radio. They want to know, so we love it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. Radio is kind of like a mystery to some people, you know, and it's that, and I look at it too, because at the festival I'm running around all the time, and there's always somebody at your booth talking to you about stuff, and
Right.
and that the nice thing about what y'all are doing, and it does. When I first got into amateur radio and any kind of comms, you would get these old guys, and it's just like what you said. Ask them what time it is, and they want to show you how to build a watch. And it's like, dude, I don't care. I want to know what time it is right now.
Yep.
And the old guys, you would ask them a question, and it's like, well, it kind of depends, and let's get into all the scientific stuff. And it's just like, I want to know this certain thing, and it's not. Most of your hams are. They get on there and rag to you about everything and talk about their prostate exam and all this. And it's like, dude, I don't care. Literally, I've listened to the guys and they're like, well, yeah, I went to the doctor today and had my prostate examined and he said it was okay. And I'm like, these guys have got nothing to do all day.
Nothing else to do.
That's it.
So I'm just like, oh, sure. So,
But we do a lot of radio. I mean, we don't only sit in the shack here at home. We go out in the field and do radio, which is fun. And we teach people how to take their gear, what gear they need, and go out into the real world and operate their radios.
Yeah. And that is one of the big things is you see a lot of people, and that's what I'm gearing up a little bit more towards being as mobile as I can. Because realistically, if you look in a non-permissive environment, if you're, the end of the world kind of deal and, people are watching and every radio communication, you don't want to sit at your house and broadcast from your house. It's like you want to go away from your house and do your broadcasting and then scoot out of there before the, warheads on foreheads kind of deal comes down.
And you've also got to know who you want to talk to. Is it somebody in your family? Is it somebody in your network in your town? Is it other homesteads that are close by to you? Who do you want to talk to?
Yeah.
Which is why we need a plan, right?
That is why we need a plan.
Yes. So tell us about setting up a plan, y'all.
Well, we refer to it as a PACE plan. You have primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. All right. But what you do is you define, like we said, who do you want to talk to? Who do you need to talk to? And what capabilities do they have? Primary, it's going to be your phone. We use this every day, this little pocket computer. So this is our primary form of communication. We call and we talk to people. All right. An alternate form of that is if we can't get them on the phone, we text them a message. All right. Well, what happens when the cell towers are overloaded? We're not talking natural disaster. We're just talking a major event happens in your city. Big baseball game, big football game. Everybody's coming into town and the cell towers are overloaded. And you're stuck on the side of the road, flat tire, cell's not working. How are you going to communicate somebody to come help you? And who are you going to communicate to? So, that's where your alternate comes into play. It could be a radio. It could be one of these. This is a SpotX. This sends text messages over satellite. All right. Garmin has one out also called an inReach.
Yeah.
They work fantastic. They take a couple of minutes. So if your
Do you have
primary,
a license to work one of those?
no, you do not.
No.
And it will send a text message from that device to somebody's cell phone. So if you're trying to reach somebody out of the area that's clustered, so to speak, that'll do it. takes about a couple of minutes to go up, come back down again, and get the text message out. You can put pre-programmed text messages in there. Really works out well on that.
I've got one of the Zolio or Zelio that I've got one of those that works off. It pings to your phone and works off a satellite where you can send messages.
Yep. Yes, the Zelio. I think you are correct with that term. I've never played with one of those. We own the Spot X's. I've got friends that have the Garmin InReaches.
Yeah.
On them, and they're really good. Once you're started this and you identify who you need to talk to, then you got to talk about what do I need to tell them? How do I need to convey this information? And then budget, because you can go down as deep into this as you want to.
Imagine.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can, if you go into the radio side of it, let me get it up in there.
It's not going
to show. Anyway, you can buy a $400 ICOM Yaesu radio, or you can buy a $30 Bofang radio.
Yeah.
And they do about the same thing. The quality, of course, with the more expensive radios is much better. But if you're on a limited budget and you're having to outfit you and 4 children, yeah, you can go with something less expensive to make it work.
And two, depending on if you want to be licensed for ham radio, you've got to consider, you got to take a test. If you want to be licensed for GMRS radio, it's just paying a fee to get a license for your family and not just an individual, or your family radio service. Of course, that doesn't go very far. Again, you have to determine who you want to talk to, how far are they away from you, to figure out which one of those routes you want to take for radio communication.
Yeah. So, and this day and age, the way the weather situation has been, with the tornadoes and stuff coming through, we're losing cell towers.
Yeah.
And it takes a couple of days for a portable cell tower to get in and get set up. I mean, just look at what happened in East Tennessee and Western North Carolina last year.
Yeah.
And then all the major
Jason, wasn't that how you all were communicating, was radios the whole time you were out there?
Yeah, a lot of it was radio stuff. Whenever a SAW team went out or a team went out, like if we were going to go out and do SAW work or something like that, the first thing we did was we had a comms guy with us. So the comms guy would set up, make sure he could have radio communications back to the FOB, our base. And after that, we proceeded on to work. And nobody was doing any work until we had radio communications back to the base. So
and that was their communications plan.
Yeah.
They didn't have cell towers. So the primary on the phone was out, text messaging was out. So they went to radio.
Yeah.
As their contingency plan. I know Jason reached out to us and said, hey, we've got teams up there that don't have radios. So we loaded up radios and FedExed it up there to them.
And a lot of the times, there was one guy over, and I think it was Little Germany, I think is the place. He essentially saved all those people because he had a 5-watt Baofeng and knew how to use it.
And knew how to use it. That's the key.
Yes.
Exactly. That's why, you might be listening to this and sitting there thinking, we need to have a plan in place in case a storm hits or, whatever happens. But if you don't know how to use the equipment, it doesn't matter. It's just like buying medical stuff. If you don't have the training to know how to use it, it doesn't matter that you have it. You've got to get the training.
And then practice.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one thing. Okay. I've got the license. I've bought the gear. I've been trained on the gear. But if you don't practice it, then when the time comes, you're not going to really know what to do. Because the more you practice, that muscle memory kicks into place.
Yeah.
And so, you've covered who you need to talk to. You figured that out. You figured out a budget. you're on the contingency side right now still. So you've gone to radio. Well, within that, you develop another plan. Say, okay, we're going to talk at the top of the hour on this frequency or this channel. If I don't hear you, well, at 15 minutes after the hour, I'm going to call again. I'm going to turn my radio off to conserve battery power because I don't know if I can recharge my battery or not. So then I'll contact you at 15 minutes after the hour, and we'll see if we can make contact. If this channel or this frequency is busy, if there's somebody on it that I can't reach you, I have an alternate channel or frequency that I will go to. And then we can make contact that way, get the message across and say, hey, you know, I'm stuck out on the loop. You know, can one of y'all get here and pick me up or bring a tire or bring some gas, whatever caused my breakdown.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and that's the real world scenarios where you've got the other scenario. Hey, we weren't home. The tornado came through and wiped my house out.
Yeah.
You know, or we're in the storm shelter and the trees have fallen and I can't get out. Can you bring a saw team out and come cut us out?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's everybody, and a lot of the people look at, you know, your communications and your radio stuff is we're only going to use this when the world ends. I mean, you can use the things all the stinking time. I mean, yeah, I mean, in everyday life, I know a lot of people use them in everyday life. I did. Oh, I don't use them as much as I should. But one time, when my oldest son, this has been years ago, he was homesick and he didn't have a cell phone, anything like that. I was like, I've got to go over and fix some stuff at the front of the property. I gave him one of my Baofengs. I had a Baofeng with me. I turned it on. I said, all you got to do is push the button and talk if you need something. He's like, okay, cool. So I set the Baofeng on the tailgate of the truck while I was working, and boom, it was ready to go. We had that's everyday stuff that you can use it for. You know, not just the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we use it a lot with our 10-year-old grandson too, because we've got property and he likes to go to the lake and he likes to go to the woods, and we'll send him out with the radio so he can check in with us, or we can check in on him and make sure he's okay.
Yeah. I mean, once you incorporate it into your everyday stuff, it just kind of becomes like anything else. I mean, you could wind up, it becomes just like your cell phone. You're going to use it just as much. I mean, depending on, you know, how far away you are and stuff like that from people.
There are a lot of construction crew, work crew people that use them too on a pretty regular basis, for regular communications.
Oh yeah,
I know. I use them. You know, when I'm up on a roof and my help is inside the building, you know, I use a radio versus using the cell phone.
Yeah,
it's just easier on that, and you know, so developing that communication plan is important, and then you get down to the bottom of it, and it's like, okay, I can't get in touch with anybody on the radio. Nobody can get in touch with me. My cell phone's not working. I can't send a text message out. What do I do now? Well, I'm going to walk to my rally point. I know that they know that this is my normal route home from work, and if things go south, well, this broken down tree in the bend of the road is where they're going to come find me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. You don't want to pick a major place like a Home Depot or Lowe's or large grocery store, because if it's that bad, you want to avoid the crowds.
Yeah.
So your walk to point, your rally point is someplace small where there's not going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it has to be someplace that everyone in your group knows that, okay, we haven't heard from them. Like, we can't contact them on the radio. We can't contact them on the cell phone. Let's go see if they've showed up at our agreed upon meeting place.
Yeah.
you know.
And it's funny. Some people look and they're like, as far as the pace plan and stuff like that, they think it's a little bit of an extreme. But honestly, you've got a pace plan built into your life on anything with preparedness. You've got your food plan. Your primary food is, what you've planned for the week you're going to eat. We're going to have spaghetti on Monday and steaks on Tuesday and tacos on Wednesday, that kind of thing. And then you've always got an alternate. Well, if we decide we don't want tacos on Wednesday, we'll do something else. But then you've got, stuff built into that, your contingency. Well, I forgot to thaw out steak, so we're going to have, I don't know, we're going to have something from the a freezer meal or something like that. And then you've got your emergency ramen noodles. Flop that down. Here's dinner tonight for our emergency stuff.
Yeah, ramen noodles and Vienna sausages.
Yeah.
Wonderful meal.
I mean, or your emergency stuff. Honestly, I've done this before when nobody's been home. I'm like, I'm going to grab a Mountain House meal and eat it.
Yeah.
So I'll throw some freeze-dried stuff in and eat it. I'm like, hey, I'm good. So the pace plan is we use it, but we don't necessarily say, hey, here's the pace plan that we're going to do for the day.
No. And one of the things people don't realize is we have every phone number we want to call stored in this phone.
Yeah.
And we don't remember any of them.
Not a one.
Exactly. I don't remember phone numbers anymore at all.
No.
So what happens if you drop this and it gets run over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you drop it and break the screen and it won't turn on again. How are you going to contact somebody if you're broken down or whatever? You've been in an accident and your phone gets broken.
Yeah.
You're on that deserted road and hit a patch of ice and went off the side. So that's why we talk about with the radios, you have frequencies written down on a card and taped to the back of the radio. You're not going to remember it. It's going to be programmed in, but it's also going to be taped to the back. You can also tape phone numbers on there as well.
Yep.
So if a person happens to stop by and say, hey, you need some help. Yeah, I got to call somebody, but I don't know their number. They can't help you. But if you've got those numbers written down and taped somewhere, you can do that. So that's part of your communications plan as well.
All right.
Great idea.
Brian, rabbit hole number one.
Uh-oh. Let's have here we go.
Well, you hit it on programming the radios. All right. I read, and I've read it twice now, NC Scouts, the Guerrilla's Guide to Baofeng Radios.
Yep.
He talks about different levels, like your sustainment level of communications, your I think there's something, and then there's the clandestine communications.
Right.
Essentially, that's if you're in a non-permissive environment, just rule of law is out of the order. We're just, zombie apocalypse, the whole deal. His thing is, do not have your radios programmed, because if somebody captures your radio, they're going to know what frequencies you're using and that kind of stuff. What do you think about programmed versus non-programmed?
I think in a day-to-day situation, program your radios. You're going to have your local repeaters programmed in there. You're going to have your buddy's channel that you chat with, simplex, programmed in there. But then you're also going to, and you got to memorize your TAC frequencies.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means your tactical frequencies. When you're wanting to communicate out in the field, you're going to punch that frequency in manually. All right.
Okay.
Say it's 144.536. Okay. Just as an off the wall example, it's an oddball frequency. You're going to hand program that in. So if something starts to happen, you can delete that real easy. And then the other thing about that is if you have your stuff programmed in there and you have developed a comms plan with your team, you know that we're going to rotate frequencies periodically.
Yeah.
Right. I was just sitting here thinking if somebody like say Jessica and Josh had a radio and we were communicating with them and Jessica thought, somebody had our radio and Jessica didn't think it was us, she could say, go to technical or tactical frequency 1.
Right.
And I would know what that is and I could go to that and that other person wouldn't know. And then she would know that somebody had our radio. Am I making sense? Is that kind of, yeah.
And that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
But those numbers you're going to have to remember because you don't want them written down anywhere. You don't want them taped to the back of the radio. You're just going to have to know it.
And that is the thing about using radio for communication. If somebody's scanning frequencies or channels, they are likely to hear your conversation, whether they decide to join in or not. Yeah. It's like a party line telephone.
Yeah. And going back to the program and non-program, I think before I read that book, I had like my Baofangs and everything programmed, all that stuff. I had, of course, they're all unlocked. So I had FRS, GMRS, MERS, Marine, and then the ham bands and stuff, all that programmed with all the repeaters. I'm thinking what I'm going to do is just program the repeaters, and that's the only thing I've got programmed in there. And then have a card for right now that I can pull up and I know what we're going to use for certain things. Because when you're programming your repeaters, you've got to do your tone or whatever it is, however, I don't know. I don't get into the technical crap, but you've got, you can't just plug in your repeater. And what is, do you have to have an offset or what is it?
You've got to, the way a repeater works is it comes in on one frequency. The radio will send a tone with it to tell the repeater that, okay, we need to accept this transmission. And then it sends it out on another frequency. And that's what your offset is. In VHF, it's plus or minus 6. And on UHF, it's plus or minus 5. And so that's the way your repeaters work. So having them programmed in and stored in memory helps.
Yeah.
Because, it's just too complicated to try to do it in another way. Everything else we've been talking about is simplex, meaning it is strictly radio to radio.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about the handhelds is, you're only dealing with about 10 watts on a handheld radio, and they're line of sight radio. So if you're in an urban environment, you're downtown, your reach is not going to be real good on simplex. So you have to take all that into consideration when you're developing your communications plan as well. Where am I most likely going to be if I have to use this radio?
Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm going to wind up doing on mine is just programming the repeaters for the local area. And then I'll plug everything else in as needed and just punch it in on the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is a good book. If anybody is wanting to get in and learn a little bit more, it's NC Scout. It's the Guerrilla's Guide to Baofeng Radio. That thing is a freaking awesome book. I've read it a couple times and enjoyed it. It opens your eyes on a lot of stuff.
He's got a neat section in there about connecting a tablet to the radio and sending a text message through the tablet.
Yeah.
Over the radio waves. It's a neat section. And he's in one of his recommendations is you go buy a cheap tablet and dedicate it to that. And when you set the tablet up, you don't use your name and you don't use your email address. So it's totally anonymous. And it does work, by the way.
Yeah. Me and one of my buddies are working on that. He's got he ordered the cables for it and he's doing all the legwork and we're going to start messing around with that pretty soon.
Okay.
So, hey, I tell you I've been playing those UV 17s Baofeng I got from y'all. they're a tri-band. And we've talked about this. I'm going to start playing with the 1 1/4 band.
Yeah, there's nobody on it.
Yeah, it's like there's nobody on there. I've turned the radio on there and just sat while I was doing something on the computer and listen. You never hear a peep out of anybody on it.
No. It's
I feel like that's going to be my deal to use from now on a lot.
and there are several groups in this area that are doing the same thing
Yeah.
because there's nobody on it, and there's not a lot of radios can receive or transmit on that band.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out there, but most people don't buy them. They just buy the dual band, which is UHF, VHF.
Yeah. I'm trying to find, the only bad thing is the bigger like base stations and the mobile units. I'm trying to find one that'll do over 20 watts on the 1 1/4 band. I haven't found any of those yet.
I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't looked into those over
Yeah.
20 watts. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm wanting. I'm having a hard time finding it. So, but
That's one thing about using a mobile station, though. You're putting an antenna then on the top of your truck, which is going to extend your reach and the number of people you can talk to. Your signal's going to go further.
Yeah.
And you can take that UV17 and connect it to that mag mount on top of your truck and really increase your range.
Oh yeah, and I mean we played with that when y'all did the radio class up here. Y'all,
Yes.
Yeah. Tell everybody. I mean, well, here before we dig into that, tell everybody if somebody's watching this and they're like, "Hey, I want to get started in this. I have absolutely no communications whatsoever for my family. Where should they get started? Like step one."
Reach out to us to begin with, and then we can point them in the right direction. What's our email? SB
sbradios at protonmail.com.
SB radios at protonmail.
All right, and I'll put your email in the video description.
But one of the big things is go to ARRL.org.
Mm-hmm.
That's American Radio Relay League.org. They are kind of like the governing body for amateur radio in the United States. Their website is packed with tons of information.
Yes.
It is.
And then you can find a local club, and a local club will help you most of the time. You've got some sad hams out there that, that's another rabbit hole that we won't go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the sad hams are everywhere.
Yep.
But somebody just wanting to get started in radios, they really have to decide, do they want to be a licensed amateur radio operator, take the test, pass it, or not, and that's going to give them a direction to go, because if they're not, then you're limited to the GMRS side of it and the family radio service side, and not just the amateur radios.
Yeah. And the difference is GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service, is limited to 50 watts mobile. All right. A mobile station. Family Radio Service, FRS, is the little handhelds that you can buy at Walmart and stuff. They're limited to a half a watt.
Yeah.
You're talking quarter mile most on those. The 50 watt GMRSs can really reach out now. You've got more people putting up a repeater, and the way a repeater works, the signal comes in, excuse me, and is rebroadcast. And those repeaters, their antennas are up on high towers. So the radio footprint really increases. And the GMRS license, you go on FCC website, you pay $35. It's good for 10 years and the entire family.
Yeah.
Has a lot of potential. Again, consider your budget, consider who you need to talk to. On the ham side, you're going to take a test for that, and there's 3 different levels in that, but you can go up to 1,500 watts on the ham radio side. So you can really increase your range on that. I know Susan and I, we're out there in the field talking on the radio, we use a 100-watt radio is all we use with a good antenna. And we've talked all over the world.
Yeah.
With that. And so you don't have to have the big, huge tower next to the house anymore the way people did. You know, we use a wire antenna here at the house, and we do fine with that. So that's inexpensive. Our portable gear for a long time was an in-fed half-wave antenna that we built.
Yeah.
62 feet long, and we've talked all over the world on 100 watts with that wire.
And you can set that thing up in 15 to 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, because when you're doing the POTA, the Parks on the Air, you're literally going out to a park, setting the antenna up and setting on a picnic table and running everything. That or on the tailgate of your truck.
Exactly.
So it's teaching yourself how to operate in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people don't realize is all of the modern ham radios are 12 volt.
Yeah.
The big ones are. They're all 12 volts. So you use a battery. You don't have to plug it into the wall anymore. You know, we use power supplies, of course, to convert the AC current to DC when we're in the house. But when you're out in the field, you know, we use a lithium ion phosphate battery, a small one, usually about 30 amp hours. And we go to town. So, you know, that's part of our communication plan is if we're on the road, we always carry our ham radio gear with us.
Yeah.
So if we find a park, we'll set up and do a POTA while we're on the road.
Because it is fun.
It's a blast. And two, if something comes up, I can put that up and I can talk to somebody back at home. I know everybody's call signs. I know what frequencies that they're on at what time of day. So that's part of our communication plan if we're stuck somewhere.
Yeah. And part of it, you know, a lot of people are, you know, totally opposed to getting your ham license. They're like, I shouldn't have to pay the government, you know, to use the airwaves that are free. I don't want the government knowing where I live and all this. I mean, it gets super tinfoil hat even for me. And I get down some rabbit holes. But it's like, if you're already in preparedness, your name's already on a list. I mean, hell, honestly, if you go buy a gun, your name is on the list. So what's it matter if you get on a list twice that it's the same stinking list?
Well, what about all those thousands of rounds of ammunition that you've ordered online because it was a cheap price and they shipped it to your house?
Yeah. And then it's like, oh my gosh, it's government overreach. It's government overreach. What's the ham license? I haven't renewed mine. Was it $35?
It's $35 to renew it.
Yeah, for 10 years.
Yes.
So, and people are like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have to pay for something that's free. Hell, you pay for so much other stuff that's a hell of a lot more expensive than that, and you're not complaining about it. I mean,
your cell phone goes across the air. I mean, granted, you're using cell towers, but still.
Yeah,
it's the guy.
Yeah, it's the guys that beat up on ham radio all the time, and they're like, well, I'm never getting my ham license. Cool, buddy. Stop. Get off your little soapbox and quit preaching to me. Go take your test and get your freaking license. And then people are also like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't have to take a test. You have to be like an electrical engineer to pass these tests. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, there's 12-year-old kids that have passed these tests.
In June, our ham radio club, Area 51 Radio Group, Mississippi, we've got a family that's coming to test, and we've got an 8 and a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
They're coming to take their first technician test.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, they'll probably pass it pretty easy, won't they?
They will.
They probably will.
Yeah. Dad's coming to take the test too. So all three of them are going to test.
Yeah.
The thing about it, and people, I get this argument a lot. We do. They say, well, in an emergency situation, you can broadcast on the radio without a license.
Mm-hmm.
That is 100% true.
Yep.
If it is a life-threatening situation, you can talk on the radio without a license. The problem comes in is if you don't practice with that radio, you're not going to know how to talk. You're not going to know how to program in a frequency on that radio. You're not going to know how to program in that repeater that everybody's talking on to get information. That's why you get the license, so you can practice. So if something does come up, you'll be proficient enough to use the radio.
Yeah. And it's the same guys that are fussing about how hard the ham radio tests are the same guys that can tell you every stat for the Major League Football, or football player teams. They can tell you every stat for that. They memorize that, and they can tell you every single stat for every AR-15 that's been made and all the ballistics for every caliber gun that's made. They can tell you all that crap, but they won't spend 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks to study for this. They're like, it's too hard. And it's like, quit being a cuck about it and just do it. So
it's not really that hard.
No.
Learning the language. And once you do that, we were in Tennessee testing a group up there. They're putting emergency communications in play. This is a business up there. They've got multiple locations, and they're putting emergency communications in play up there because they're expecting an event to happen. Major earthquake.
Yeah.
Okay. We've all been feeling tremors and everything else lately. So the fear is that the New Madrid fault is actually going to become active. So they are testing their people. They're putting radio gear in place up there to do this. And that's one of the things they're doing. They're running nets now that they're getting their people licensed so they can talk on the radio and they know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it is a little more difficult for some than others if they don't have some background knowledge in the radio world because of the language, but it's doable. I mean, you just got to work at it and practice and study.
Yeah. We worked with this group and we licensed 6 out of the 8 people. And one of those went from 0 to general license, and the general is your second level license.
Yeah.
He took the technician, passed it, and then took the general and passed it as well.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, the tech and the general are easy. Y'all been all over me to get my extra, and I think I've taken the test twice and failed miserably on it. And granted, I didn't study a whole lot. I studied some, but the extra is the hardest one, and it's a challenge to get it. But really, if you get your general license, you can talk in HF and talk all over the world if you want to.
Yeah, you can. The general license allows you high frequency bands, which lets you talk all over the world. The general license for most people is high as they need to go.
Yeah.
Susan and I both have our extra license because we want to teach.
And we didn't have anybody in our area testing. And usually to do testing, you need to have an extra license to be able to test all 3 levels. And that was my main motivation for getting it, was just to help others become licensed.
And if you have someone that is interested in wanting to take the test during the festival, we will be more than happy to bring our testing credentials and we will test them. So I'm gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
There will be a $15 fee, which goes to ARRL.
Yeah.
We don't get any part of that. That's just the fee that we have to pay for testing. But if someone wants to test, we will set up a time and we will test them.
Awesome. All right. What other final thoughts? I think we did good with not too many rabbit holes. I made some notes in here, but we didn't go down those. So
we can though. We still have a few minutes.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, what about? All right. Touch on this. What about satellite phones? Have you messed with satellite phones a lot?
They're expensive,
Well,
and that's why I haven't fooled. The only satellite thing I do is the Spot X
okay.
for text messaging. That costs us $120 a year for a certain number of messages, and the unit itself was right at $300.
Well, I've not messed with satellite phones a lot. They're expensive. I would like to have one, but then if you look at it, everybody in your group or your family needs a sat phone, so it's kind of like, man, that's a lot of stinking money.
It is.
And then the monthly fees on it as well.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I decided instead of having a satellite phone, I bought a Starlink instead. So
yes.
and then,
We've got some friends that have done that also.
yeah, I mean, and heck, they've got it now. I'm kind of pissed off. They've got the Starlink minis for $299 right now. I'm like, holy crap! It's all I can do. I'm looking. I'm like, do I want to start? I've got the Starlink standard, and Shelly has a standard Starlink too. I'm like, I could go buy a Starlink mini for $299, but I really want this new chainsaw. So I'm debating on which one. It's like I've got some extra cash. Which one do I want? So the chainsaw, honestly, I'll use the chainsaw more than I'll use the Starlink. And plus, I got the standard. But yeah, I mean, I bought that, and my thought on it is, if the cell towers are down, all that kind of stuff, and internet's down, with the iPhones, you can do iMessage over Wi-Fi.
Yes, you can.
So, I mean, if we're affected in our area, I could send you, Brian and Susan, I could send y'all a text message and do it over Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And communicate with you that way. And it'll take, I don't know, it takes 15 minutes maybe to set that Starlink up and get it aligned and online and everything, which doesn't take all that long. And then you've got, I mean, working with your PACE plan, you can send emails and stuff like that.
Well, you can also connect certain radios to the internet.
Yeah.
And use radio communications across the internet and reach out all across the world.
Yeah.
And that's with a technician license. The radios are kind of expensive, but they've got All-Star out there. Well, they've got D-Star, they've got Fusion, you've got DMR, which are all digital modes that will go through the internet.
Yeah.
So that opens up a whole nother avenue.
As long as the internet's working.
As long as your internet's working.
Yeah.
As well. So, yeah, what we push is there is no infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, what is your communication plan for zero infrastructure?
Yeah. And that thing is, it's like it's been said before, if you don't own it, you don't control it.
Correct.
Yes.
So just like the repeaters, everybody's like, oh man, if the grid goes down, I'll be all right. I'll just use the repeaters. Man, you don't own those repeaters. So the guys can shut the repeaters down and not let traffic through, or they're going to run out of backup power.
Yes.
Well, that's it. How many of those repeaters are on backup power? All right. Is it just a single battery for a 1 or 2 hour outage? Do they have solar to recharge those batteries?
Yeah.
And then the other side of that is you've got the only repeater that's working in the area. What do you think the government's going to do when they move into town?
They're going to use it.
They're going to grab that frequency and say, all right, ain't nobody else going to talk on that frequency. We're confiscating it for our communications basis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the whole thing. Yeah. I mean, that's what I like about the radios is you own your antenna, you own your backup power, you own the radio. And Brian and Susan, if I want to talk to y'all from Kentucky to Mississippi, we own both ways on that, and nobody can. They can jam signals and stuff like that, but then you've got all kinds of different frequencies you can go on.
That's the beauty of ham versus FRS or GMRS or CB even. Okay. You have specific channels that you have to talk on. Ham radio, I can change frequencies.
Yeah.
If I'm on this frequency and it's busy, I can move over here to this one. If I'm on 7.240 and there's somebody there, I go to 7.245 or 248 and talk. And with your communications plan, you and I would know our normal frequency is 7.240. All right. Well, we can't talk on that. So we're going to go to 7.245 or up to 7.250.
Yeah.
All right. So we know because our communications plan says we're going to go up or down depending on what we need to do.
Yeah.
So you can make these communications plans as detailed as you want to.
Yeah.
We like to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, you need to practice that communications plan. Once you set something up with your family, once a month, pull the radios out, make sure they're charged, and everybody talks to everybody. Drive down the road while you're going to the grocery store, while you're going to school, just running errands and talk.
Yeah.
And then that way you'll know where you can talk in what part of the city or what part of the country or county, if you're out in rural, whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, well, I guess bottom line, if somebody's watching this and they want to get into it, probably the best thing to do is email you or wait until the festival and come by the booth and talk to you. Set up a time where y'all can really get in depth with somebody and stuff like that. So
we do private training for groups. We'll help you get licensed. Like I say, we just worked with a group up in Western Tennessee and got 6 out of their 8 people licensed. And then we've got a follow-up coming up in a couple of months with them to work with them on their communications plan. They're working on a preliminary one now, and we're going to get up there and evaluate it for them and help them tweak it.
Awesome.
That's what we do.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Come to the festival. You can talk to Brian and Susan in person. They can work with you. Y'all can set up some times for them to talk to you one-on-one about comms plans, where to get started. They're going to have radios for sale. So that you can buy radios from them at the festival. Also, if you want to email them beforehand and get some stuff going with that way. Shelly, run through some of the stuff we're going to have at the festival. I mean, we're gonna have, like, you can lock pick sourdough if you want to, right?
Lock pick sourdough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess if you wanna bake a lockpick into sourdough to give to somebody when you go visit, whatever, I guess.
When you come visit me in the pokey.
Yeah. Because your name's on a list, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
We've got like 16 different workshops that are happening. There's going to be sourdough. There's going to be an herbal workshop. There's going to be dog training and using dogs for defense. Composting, chicken processing, knife use and bushcraft. There's going to be canning and how to make biochar, lock picking, fermenting, making yogurt and butter, land navigation, beekeeping, cast iron cooking, chainsaw 101, how to make sauces and spices and juices, and sausage and bacon making. And then along with that, those classes, each one of those classes are going to be offered every day. So if you get there on Friday and there's 2 or 3 classes at the same time that you want to take, don't fret. You'll be able to take it on Saturday or take it on Sunday. So you'll have multiple opportunities to take those classes. And then we've got several speakers lined up. We've got Barbara Sue Kowalski with Kowalski's Mountain, who's going to be talking about how to properly store your preps. The banks are going to be coming in and talking about herbal medicine. We've got William Bond that's going to be talking about building a permaculture homestead. Brian and Susan are going to be talking about communications. They'll be able to answer all your questions. We've got Dr. Trevor Wilkins that's going to be talking about dealing with trauma. Suzanne Shires is going to be talking about how to find salt in the wild. I'm actually kind of
cool.
excited about this. Like,
Yeah,
I
I need to
didn't
listen
even
to
know
that
you
one.
could do that. So Jay Addison, he's going to be talking about how to become, or how to help citizens become prepared. Chronically Healthy is going to be there, talking about finding a suitable path to healing. Jeff Smith is going to be talking about active aggressor awareness and strategies. And Bear from the Internet is going to be talking about building community. Y'all, this is a jam-packed festival. There's going to be all kinds of great speakers, we really, Jason and I wanted to take it in a different direction. That's why we have all these workshops. We wanted you to walk away from this festival with some real skills that you can use to begin to live your life sustainably and not be dependent on a system or a government or any of that kind of stuff. So that's why, we just went out and found everyone we could that, was like, okay, you know how to do this, come teach us how to do that. So, and you can do all of that. You can get all of those speakers and all of those workshops for $35. That's it for the whole weekend. $35.
That is a deal for a 3-day festival.
Right?
We've been to a lot of festivals that cost a whole lot more that don't offer near this much stuff. This is fantastic.
So go to KentuckySustainableLiving.com, get your tickets. If you go to the website, if it's the first time you've been there and you sign up for our newsletter, you'll actually get a coupon code for 10% off. So you can get it for even less than $35.
Wow.
So, go check it out. All of our workshops and our speakers are listed on the website. You can check it out. The schedule is on there. It's on the festival page down at the bottom. So you can take a look at that, figure out when you want to go see who and all that kind of thing. But you'll definitely want to come check out Brian and Susan's booth, because they're going to come prepared with everything you need to set up your communication stuff at home, for real. And they can even help you. You can go on that. Is it ARRL.com?
.org.
.org. You can go on that website and take practice tests for the technician test.
For no charge.
And then you can come, for no charge. And then you can come to the festival and Brian and Susan can administer the test for you. You can get everything done at the festival. You can get your license, you can get your equipment, you can get all the stuff. And Brian and Susan don't just drop you like a wet hot dog. They will like walk you through it and teach you how to use your stuff and talk to you from Mississippi or, whatever.
Yeah. If you're interested in getting licensed, reach out to us. We'll send you a sheet that tells you everything you need to do. And then you can study, and then we'll be more than happy to administer the test at the festival. Be glad to.
Yeah. And with the festival, the only thing that's extra is if you want to take the refuge medical class on Friday. But $35 gets you in. And one thing we hadn't really talked about, of course, Brian and Susan will be there in the vendor area, but we've got vendors. We've got everything from people selling, Brian and Susan selling radio stuff, all the way up to freeze-dried foods, to custom knives. Heck, we've got Kitchen Queen. They're going to bring their wood stoves and going to be having wood cook stoves there to sell. Pretty much anything related to homesteading and preparedness, we're going to have a vendor that's covering that. So I think right now we've got 46 or 48 vendors that'll be there. So, guys, just realistically, I would pay $35 just to go through the vendors and see what people have.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the stuff that you find, a lot of the stuff that I bought in homesteading and preparedness stuff has been at festivals from people I meet they don't necessarily have this big monster website or a big monster Facebook following. They're just small little niche businesses, and it's hard to find this kind of stuff with certain people.
And wouldn't you rather invest your money with like-minded people? For real? Like, wouldn't you rather, give your money to people who are, out there doing this and living this life and all that kind of thing? Because I sure would. I prefer to do that.
Well, that, and the thing is, you get to stand there and talk to them.
Yep.
About their experiences, about their products. and get additional information from them. That's something you can't get from the big box store or off the internet.
Absolutely.
You can't beat face-to-face. That's
Right.
That's what it boils down to. You just can't beat face-to-face interactions.
Exactly. So, guys, we appreciate it. Go to the website, get your tickets, get any of your. Also, we've got first aid medical supplies in stock. We've got our bags, our IFACs ready to ship out. We've got pretty much everything in stock. So take a look at that. But buy your tickets first, and then buy your first aid stuff. So,
Right.
yeah, guys, we will see y'all July 18th, 19th, and 20th in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And we will be back. We're going to start doing all our interviews on Mondays and Thursdays right up until the festival. So stay tuned and catch it there. We will see y'all later.
Good night.
night.
Thank you.